having something to do with that. I thought that was fascinating. But at the time that happened, that interview in 2003, it was interesting to contemplate, but I didn't really take it in as being factual. I didn't take it in as being not factual, but I didn't really take in how deadly serious she was on that point.
Yeah.
And I remember us talking about her interest in preventing the weaponization of space. And basically what I'm learning from you today is that it's already done.
Right.
And it's been done for how long, John?
Forever. See, there was no Big Bang. There was no beginning of the universe. It's been going on forever, and it will go on forever. There's no limit to what's out there. There's hundreds of billions of universes, and it goes on forever.
So everything the scientists and the physicists and the astronomers are learning is like baby cakes. It's full of mistruths.
Right.
Let's talk about Stephen Hawking and what he's now saying about get ready and concern yourself with devilish, dangerous alien life. What do you think about it?
It's BS. There are some aliens that are hostile, but the ones that are taking care of us will take care of the hostile ones. But as far as all aliens being hostile, that's just part of the big scenario that we have to prepare for an alien invasion, and it's all nonsense. It's not going to happen.
Because he just came out with that a few months ago. Do you remember?
Yeah, he's probably given a top-secret briefing, and since he's very well-known, he was probably told, it's going to happen, and we need you to say this and need you to say that, and so he did. But it's all nonsense. It's not going to happen, nothing to worry about.
I can't believe the level of peace in your voice. You have such peace and tranquility, like composure and at one with whatever.
A lot of people say that. I don't know. It's just the way I normally talk.
The Rings of Saturn. There's a book.
Right. Written by Norman Berggren, a good friend of mine, lives in Los Altos Hills, retired Lockheed engineer, very, very knowledgeable about all engineering types. And he's the one that took the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 photos and found those spaceships in the rings of Saturn. If we were ever to see an actual picture of what Saturn looks like, we would be speechless for a day because it's so beautiful, so big, so mammoth, so many things on Saturn that we would not have the words to describe it or even to think coherently for a full day if we ever saw it.
How does he get those pictures?
How did he get them?
Yes.
He was a Lockheed engineer, and he had access to NASA photos.
And they let him release it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, anybody can get those same pictures that he has. You just have to find the right avenue and the right place. His weren't airbrushed. There's some devious ways you can get unairbrushed pictures, but it's very difficult these days because they control them very carefully. Now, all the pictures that you see these days from Clementine and the Mars stuff, that's all fake stuff. Any stuff that they don't want you to see is digitally removed, and you just see rocks and sand and stuff like that. The only way to get the real stuff is by early NASA stuff, the early Martian pictures. Of course, they were airbrushed, but not as carefully as they are these days. The moon pictures are all carefully airbrushed these days, much more carefully than they were pre-1970. And, of course, all the great moon photos that were taken by some of the great observatories like Mount Wilson and Mount Palomar are all impounded for the next 5 to 10 years. There's no way you can get at them. We've tried several times. They say, no, they're locked away and they aren't going to be released. They would have all of this stuff on them.
Why do you think Pluto was just defrocked a couple of years ago? Why are we being told it's now a non-planet?
I don't know. That's pretty interesting. I never did understand why that happened.
I thought that was fascinating. That would be an interesting piece maybe to bring you in on. I'm going to find out. I'd like to know.
Well, all planets, have basically the same atmosphere as Earth. NASA would have you believe that the closer to the sun, the hotter the planet is, which is false because the sun, they would have you believe, is a nuclear action or a nuclear reaction or some kind of nuclear explosion. It's not. It's an electromagnetic sphere, and it emits an electromagnetic wave. And that wave, when it hits a planet, is controlled by that planet's atmosphere to control the temperature of any planet it approaches. So Venus, Mercury, which is the closest to the sun, has the same temperature as on Earth. Pluto, which is the farthest from the sun and supposed to be cold as an iceberg, has the same temperature as Earth. People live there, just like we live on Earth. But we're fed this stuff that the closer to the sun, the hotter we are, and that's not the truth.
It's literally like learning that almost everything you've been taught is a story.
Right.
It's kind of like losing your cosmic innocence for sure.
Yeah, it's like believing that Einstein was the greatest mathematician in the world. Einstein was nothing but a fraud. The only thing Nobel Prize he got was in 1921. It was for something that his wife did. And his wife didn't want the prize, she wanted the money. So they made a pact that he would get the honor, but he would give her the money. Everything he said about special relativity, both general and special, is all BS. There's no truth to it. It's nothing. It's a fraud, and I've written on the livingmoon.com many articles of exactly why it's a fraud. It's all BS.
Do you think that we're going to be alive at a time when there will be more peace, people living together in communities, or somehow be able to return to a more agricultural life?
In many years that will happen, but it won't be in our lifetime.
It's interesting you say that. I just asked Lynn Buchanan that, and what he shared, I'll tell you, was I said, what about 20 years from now? What about 2020?
No possibility.
That's what he saw in remote viewing. I didn't have a long talk with him about it, but I asked.
Well, I don't say it's impossible. I just say it's unlikely.
The secret space station with advanced technology, ATSS. Talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, there's 24 to 26 weaponized space stations, I should say orbiting platforms. And then there's 2 Navy command post orbiting platforms. When the shuttle launches, it should take about 9 minutes to get to the ISS, which is 220 miles out, but it normally takes about 3 days. And the excuse that NASA uses is that it's trying to catch up because it was launched at the wrong time, and it takes forever to catch up with the ISS. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is half the supplies in the shuttle are stopping at each one of these secret space stations and delivering food, vegetables, something that we need to live. Our secret space guys need to live, and they deliver people's food, supplies, machinery, and all that kinds of stuff. And then when it undocks from the space station, it should take them 54 minutes to deorbit and land at the Kennedy Spaceport, but it takes 2.5 days. The reason it takes 2.5 days is 2 days before the shuttle arrives at the ISS, it just happens that 2 Russian rockets arrive at the ISS, and they're carrying more supplies, which is transferred to the shuttle. And then when it undocks, it goes back down through the line of satellites that it missed coming up and delivers food, supplies, vegetables, people, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Now, we have other ways of getting to these space stations. 4 series of rockets like Delta, Sea Launch, I forget what the other ones are. They're man-rated. They have astronauts in them, and they can go up and dock, take supplies and stuff like that, and then they have other ways of coming back down.
Have you ever wanted to be on one?
No, I don't want to know any of that stuff. Once you get into a secret program, you're not allowed to talk about anything, so I'd rather not be in the secret program because I like to find out all the secrets and talk about them.
So 60 years, you think it'll be before disclosure is allowed, if at all?
That's right. 60 to 80 years is before they'll just start to leak a little bit about extraterrestrials. You
don't think a lot is already being leaked?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, like up at Area 51, I mean, one set of aliens has their own administration building up there. And there's 5 underground levels. I think they work with at least 4 or 5 different sets of aliens up there. So they've got all kinds of cool stuff up there. Our technology is at least 100 years ahead of where the normal public thinks it is. They think our technology is the shuttle. That's as far